Fixing things takes work, and dismantling the gender pay gap is no different.
It's really ultimately about the commitment to gender equity.
I don't particularly like the outcomes that I see for women in our company and the country generally from an equity point of view.
Viva Energy operates an energy network, and to power change, it has had to make jobs and sites more attractive to female workers, making them visible at all levels of the company. The percentage of female aircraft refuellers has more than doubled to 14%. 4 years ago, fewer than 10% of the staff at this refinery were women. Now it's more than a quarter.
I see that when I go to site, like it's a big change, because it's a physical change, right? You can actually see it when you're there.
This isn't about paying men and women differently for the same job. That's been illegal for decades. The gender pay gap is created by factors like gender-dominated industries, women being more likely to have time out of the workforce to care for others, and the history of gender discrimination against women. The national gender pay gap is 22.8%, meaning for every $1 a man makes, women earn, on average, 77.2 cents. The gap at Viva Energy is less than half that.
We've done a lot in our organisation to start making some more deliberate changes, more material steps. Starting to see some really good outcomes. Now it's getting its own momentum.
And new research suggests that doing just that is what it takes.
A lot of it comes down to rigid cultural norms that have been there over time. And what we find best performing businesses do, in particular, is to have a comprehensive set of policies to address gender equity.
Like pay audits, policies to support carers, and flexible work.
Best performing businesses go beyond analysing the data. What they do is to act on the analysis by having tangible action plans in place.
For almost a decade, businesses have had to report their gender pay gap to a government agency. They've received information on where they rank in their industry and how to improve. But because that hasn't moved the dial, the figures will be published in early 2024. The imminent exposure of the gender pay gap at every business with more than 100 employees will let workers know if what their employer says and does lines up. But it's also an opportunity. Because if a company that operates refineries, industrial grease manufacturing and a motor racing team can smash the gender pay gap, every company can.
It's also important for future employees who will be saying, which is the company that I want to work for?
Victoria's former Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commissioner works with companies trying to reduce the gender pay gap.
Looking at what are the structural barriers towards women being recruited, promoted and retained in the workforce. Looking at hotspots in an industry or a workplace where it's really difficult for women to get into those positions.
I think for some organisations it'll be confronting and challenging, and I think that's a good thing because it forces the conversations in the boardrooms and executive teams about, well, do we care about this? And if we do, what are we going to do to fix it?
All it takes is making a plan and backing it to see the results.
There's very few meetings I go to now where there's not good representation of men and women in the room.
A good energy.